few years back, I planted a single seed from a grocery store lemon. Just one, scooped off my cutting board and dropped into a cup of soil on the windowsill. That one seed is now a tree taller than my kitchen window, and it's thrown off enough seeds of its own to start a dozen more. From one piece of fruit I'd already eaten. Most people toss those seeds without a second thought, and the few who try usually kill them in the first 2 weeks. I'm going to walk you through this in 4 steps, start to finish, kitchen window or backyard. And stick around to the end, because I'll share the one fruit I'd never grow from seed and the simple swap I use instead. Here's the thing. That lemon I told you about wasn't anything special. It was a Meyer lemon off the grocery shelf, the kind you've probably got in your fruit bowl right now. One seed off my cutting board, a cup of dirt on the windowsill, and a few years later, I've got a tree standing taller than my kitchen window, throwing off enough seeds of its own to start a dozen more. And it wasn't a fluke. I ran the same trick with a grocery grapefruit and a little mandarin, and both of them sprouted right alongside it. So this isn't luck, and it isn't a green thumb. It's a method. The reason most folks fail is honestly pretty simple. They let the seed dry out before it ever hits the soil, or they drown it in soggy dirt in those first 2 weeks, and the whole thing's dead before it had a chance. I'm going to fix both of those for you. 4 steps, start to finish, and it works whether you've got a kitchen window or a backyard. I'll show you how to pick and scoop the seeds, how to clean and prep them so they sprout fast, how to plant them warm so they actually come up, and how to grow that little sprout on into a tree. And stick around to the end, because I'll name the one fruit I would never grow from seed, no matter how tempting that pit looks in your hand, and the simple swap I use instead. Let's get into it. Step 1. Pick the right fruit and scoop out fresh seeds. Here's the thing that surprised me when I first figured this out. A grocery store lemon actually works, and most fruits don't. The reason comes down to a word that sounds fancy, but means something dead simple. A lot of citrus seeds are what's called nucellar, or polyembryonic. And all that means is the seed grows a near copy of the mother tree, not a random mix of 2 parents, a clone. So when I planted that Meyer lemon seed off my cutting board, the tree that came up was, for all practical purposes, the same tree that grew the lemon I ate. That's why the trick works with lemons, grapefruit, mandarins. You're not rolling the dice. You're basically photocopying a tree. Now, seed-grown citrus does take its time. A Meyer lemon from seed will fruit in roughly 3 to 7 years, depending on your light and your patience. That sounds like forever until you remember a tree taller than my kitchen window came out of one seed I'd have otherwise scraped into the trash. So pick a fruit that looks good and tastes good, because that's the tree you're cloning. Cut it open and scoop out the plumpest 6 to 8 seeds you can find. Not 3, not 4. 6 to 8, because not every seed is going to sprout, and you want backups. Skip the shriveled flat ones. You want the fat, round, healthy-looking seeds. And here's the part that's already saving you from the first 2 weeks graveyard. Take those seeds fresh, straight off the cutting board. Citrus seeds lose their get-up-and-go fast once they dry out, so the worst thing you can do is set them on a paper towel and forget about them for a week. I learned that the hard way back in my Portland apartment, where half my early attempts died before they ever saw soil because I let them sit and harden up like little pebbles. Keep them moist and keep them moving. Do that, and you've already got viable seeds in your hand, and you're ahead of almost everybody who tries this. That's the win for step 1. Step 2. Clean them, soak them, and peel them. This is the step nobody tells you about, and it's the difference between a sprout in 1 week and a sprout in 3 or 4. First, rinse every bit of that sugary pulp off the seeds under cool water. Rub them gently between your fingers until they're slick clean and not sticky. The reason matters, that sugar is mold food. Leave it on, and you've basically set a tiny dinner table for fungus, and fungus is one of the big killers in those first 2 weeks. So get them squeaky, then soak them. Drop your clean seeds in a cup of room-temperature water and let them sit for about 8 hours. I usually do this overnight on the kitchen counter, right next to where Pepper, my old cat, likes to sleep in the warm spot. 8 hours of soaking softens that outer seed coat and wakes the seed up. Don't soak them for 2 days thinking more is better. 8 hours is the sweet spot. Much longer, and you start inviting the rot back in. Now here's where most people mess up by skipping it entirely. After the soak, you're going to peel each seed. Every citrus seed has a leathery outer coat, kind of like a thin, off-white skin over the actual seed. Catch an edge with your thumbnail and slip it off. Underneath, you'll see the seed, sometimes already showing the faintest hint of a tip where the root wants to come out. Peeling that coat off is like taking the lid off a jar for the sprout. It doesn't have to fight its way through anymore. This one move drops your germination time from 3 or 4 weeks down to about a week. I'm not exaggerating. The first time I peeled a batch and left a few unpeeled as a test, the peeled ones were up and green while the others were still sitting there doing nothing. Go slow and be gentle. The seed inside is soft and you can bruise it if you dig in with your nail. If a seed splits into 2 halves, don't panic. Citrus seeds sometimes have more than 1 embryo in them, that nucellar thing again, and you might actually get 2 sprouts from 1 seed. Bonus tree. Just keep the halves intact as best you can and treat them like any other seed. Gloria has a saying about this part. She told me once, watching me rush through a bowl of seeds on her balcony, "The seed isn't slow. You're just impatient." And she was right. The peeling and the soaking feel like fussy little extra steps, but they're the steps that respect how the seed actually wants to wake up. Gloria's been growing citrus in containers on a San Francisco apartment balcony for over 20 years, and she peels every single seed. If it's good enough for her balcony, it's good enough for my windowsill. So by the end of step 2, you've got clean, soaked, peeled seeds sitting in front of you, soft and ready, every one of them primed to come up in about a week instead of a month. That's a real win, and it cost you nothing but 8 hours and a few minutes with your thumbnail. Keep them damp while you get your pots ready. Set them on a wet paper towel or leave them in a little dish of water. Because remember, a dry citrus seed is a dead citrus seed. We're not letting them harden up now after all that work. That's the prep done. You've taken something you ate and turned it into living, ready-to-grow material, and you haven't spent a dime. Now we put them in the ground and get them warm enough to actually sprout, which is where the real magic starts to show. Step 3. Plant them warm and get them sprouting. Take your cups or small pots. Anything 4 inches deep works, as long as it has drainage holes punched in the bottom, because that's not optional. Fill them with regular potting mix. The cheap bag is fine, and get it damp the way a wrung-out sponge is damp. Not dripping, not dusty, just evenly moist all the way through. Press 1 seed about a ½ inch down into each cup, peeled side and all, and cover it back over lightly. A ½ inch is the number to remember. Bury it deeper, and it runs out of energy before it ever reaches the light. Leave it sitting on top, and it dries out by morning. Now here's the part most folks skip, and it's the difference between a sprout in a week and nothing at all. Citrus needs warmth to wake up. Cold soil just stalls everything. The seed sits there sulking, the days tick by, and people decide it's dead and dump the cup. It wasn't dead. It was cold. I keep mine right on top of the refrigerator, where the motor throws off a gentle, steady heat. That spot runs about 70 to 80 degrees, which is exactly the window citrus wants. A warm south windowsill in summer does the same job. Then, I tent the whole cup loosely with a clear plastic bag, a produce bag from the same grocery run works, to hold the humidity in like a tiny greenhouse. Just don't seal it tight against the soil, or you'll trap moisture and invite rot. Loose and airy. Keep that mix barely moist, check it every couple of days, and somewhere between 1 and 2 weeks you'll see it, a pale loop of stem pushing up through the surface. The first time that happened on my windowsill, off a seed I'd eaten the fruit around the night before, I genuinely stood there grinning at a cup of dirt. That's your win for step 3, a living sprout from a seed headed for the trash for the price of a plastic bag and a little patience. Step 4. Grow it on kitchen window or backyard. Once your seedling pushes out its first 2 to 4 true leaves, the real leaves that come after the first baby pair, pull the bag off for good. It doesn't need the humidity tent anymore, and leaving it on now just makes it soft and leggy. Move it to the brightest spot you've got. For me, that's a south-facing window that catches 6+ hours of light a day. Citrus is greedy for sun, and a dim corner gives you a thin, stretched, sad little plant, reaching sideways for a window it can't reach. If you're in an apartment with weak light, don't go buy some expensive grow setup. For years, I ran my windowsill, starts under a $15 desk lamp with a daylight bulb screwed in, parked a few inches over the seedlings. That's it. Gloria, my friend up in San Francisco who taught me half of what I know, grows citrus in containers on a foggy balcony that barely sees direct sun, and hers fruit. You don't need a yard. You need a window and a little stubbornness. As the tree grows, pot it up gradually. Move it into the next size container each time the roots fill the old one. Don't jump it straight into a giant pot, because all that extra wet soil around a small root ball just stays soggy and rots. Out here in Sacramento, Zone 9B, my last frost lands somewhere between February 25th and March 5th. Once we're past that, I harden the tree off, set it outside in shade for an hour the first day, then a little more each day for a week, so the sun doesn't scorch leaves that grew up indoors. After that, it lives outside happily. If you're somewhere colder, keep it in a container and bring it in any time the night dips below 30 degrees. Citrus doesn't forgive a hard freeze. That's step 4, and that's the whole climb. A grocery seed, now a real tree heading for your window or your yard. Now, if what I'm showing you today is making sense and you're starting to realize you've been throwing away free trees for years without knowing it, I want to point you somewhere. I wrote everything down in my book, The 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. Chapter 5 is the Regrow Encyclopedia, and it lays out every scrap that'll grow into a plant, the method, the timeline, a difficulty rating, and propagation diagrams for each one. Citrus is in there, right alongside avocado pit to tree and pineapple top. It's $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com, written for folks with no yard, no money, and no experience. If you're watching on your TV, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. I'll wait right here. If you're on a phone or laptop, the link's down in the description. Take your time pulling it up. No rush. All right, let's keep going. Let me run through the few ways people lose these seedlings in the first 2 weeks, because it's almost always one of 3 things. The first is letting the seeds dry out before they ever hit the soil. Citrus seeds lose viability fast once they go dry and hard. A seed that sat on the counter for 3 days is usually a dead seed. So plant them within a day of scooping them, or keep them damp on a wet paper towel until they go in. That one fix alone takes you from a near-zero sprout rate to most of them coming up. The second killer is overwatering. People love their new sprouts so much they water it every day, and that constant soggy mix breeds damping off, a fungus that rots the stem right at the soil line and tips your seedling over overnight. Keep the mix barely moist, make sure those drainage holes are there, and let the very top dry out slightly between waterings. Moist, not swampy. Your seedling wants a drink, not a bath. The third one isn't a killer of plants, it's a killer of patience. Folks expect fruit fast, and seed-grown citrus takes roughly 3 to 7 years to fruit. So they look at a perfectly healthy green tree, decide it's a dud because there's no lemon on it yet, and toss it. Don't do that. A green-growing seedling is doing exactly what it should. As Gloria likes to say, the hardest part of gardening isn't the growing. It's the waiting. Keep that tree going, and it'll pay you back for decades. Now I told you at the start, I'd name the one fruit I'd never grow from seed, and the simple swap I use instead. That fruit is the avocado. I know, everybody's seen the pit suspended in a jar of water on toothpicks, and it does make a pretty houseplant. But here's the honest truth. Avocado seedlings don't come true to the parent. The seed is a genetic coin flip, so the tree you grow won't match the avocado you ate, and worse, it takes roughly 7 to 13 years to fruit, if it ever fruits at all. You could wait a decade and end up with something small, watery, and not worth eating. That's a long bet on a bad hand. So here's the swap. I buy one small grafted avocado tree from a nursery. It runs about $25 to $35. It fruits in 2 to 3 years instead of 13. And because it's grafted, you know the exact variety you're getting. I keep the grocery pit too, but only as free greenery on the windowsill, never as my actual food plan. Now compare that back to the lemon. The reason the citrus trick works and the avocado one doesn't comes down to one thing. Most citrus seeds are nucellar, which is a fancy word for the seed growing a near copy of the mother tree. So a grocery lemon seed gives you something close to the lemon you ate. Avocado seeds don't do that. Citrus clones itself. Avocado gambles. That's the whole difference, and knowing it saves you 10 wasted years. Before I let you go, if today showed you what one free seed can become, the real next step is building systems that feed you for years without much fuss. That's exactly what Chapter 9 of the book covers, the long game, perennials and self-sustaining systems. It walks through fruit from scraps and cuttings, years to first fruit timelines so you know what to expect, a perennial arrangement diagram for year-round harvest, and Gloria's 20-year balcony system as living proof that this works in the smallest space, on the tightest budget, even if you failed at it before. The whole book is $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. If you're on the TV, scan that QR code on screen now. Go ahead and reach for your phone. I'll give you a second. If you're on a phone or laptop, the link is waiting in the description whenever you're ready. So that's the whole trick. One grocery lemon seed, a cup of soil on the windowsill, and a little patience, and you've got a tree taller than your kitchen window throwing off seeds of its own. This is the same idea behind everything I do here. Free food out of the stuff most people drop in the trash without a second thought. Start small this week. Next time you slice a lemon, scoop a few of the plumpest seeds off the cutting board and get them going before they dry out. Just those few. Once you've caught the bug, go regrow some ginger from a knob you already bought, or try the $3 bag of grocery potatoes I keep planting along my fence. Drop a note in the comments and tell me which fruit you tried. I read every one. Until next time, keep growing your own food, my friend.